Mr. Brent Warr, welcome to the podcast, my friend. I'm really honored that you're here.
Thanks so much, Ashish. I am so excited to be here. First off, want to thank you. We briefly met at a furniture and design show in New York, and something that really spoke to me, when we were briefly talking afterwards through social media, you were really keen on creating this community for creatives, entrepreneurs, people in all these different sectors to kind of come together. And I think this is, just so great what you're doing in terms of your company and your business as well as the podcast. Yeah, so I'm so excited to be here and I'm looking forward to it.
Well, it's not about me today, it's about you, and I'm excited about pulling all the good stuff out of you today. And right. Like you said, we met in New York a few months ago at a big hospitality trade show, and for the first time at the show, and I wouldn't have met you otherwise, but at the first time at the show, they had a sort of a boutique type part of the show. I forget what it's called. Maybe you can explain more.
Wanted Design.
It was called Wanted Design, where they brought very up and coming designers, entrepreneurs. What do you call? Well, it was like more workshop-y.
Yeah. So
like
so
artisans.
Yeah, it was. So they kind of it's this group out of New York called Wanted Design, and so they basically created this very, very specialized, like high-end, younger, new and emerging designers. And so they kind of selected around 20 to 30 people from all over the US, as well as, and there was a couple people there that were from Canada and Montreal. And so, they were, people that are newer and younger and coming up.
I loved it. Yeah. And all you guys are like artisans and creatives, but also like starting off entrepreneurs. And what really spoke to me was like, I saw what my life was 10 years ago in you guys, and I just got so jazzed about being able to talk to you guys and share. And I'm really excited that you're here to share your journey. And so I guess as we get into it, I really want people to understand your journey. And if you could start with that and tell us about how you got here and how tell us a little bit about your business and what what your creative focus is in your art. Tell us a little bit about your business, but tell us about your journey. And let's start there, and then we'll get into some other topics.
Okay. So a little bit of a background. So I'm originally from the South. Grew up in a very, very small town in Georgia. Ended up going to university at Auburn University in Alabama. And so went to school for this. It was a design degree called environmental design, which is a very interesting major. What I studied has nothing to do with what I'm doing now, which is very interesting. However, the one really amazing thing, it was kind of an interdisciplinary design degree, but it focused on holistic design thinking. And that was the entire basis for the major. So I think that's something that has really transferred into like what I'm currently doing now. That's like the one big thing. After college, moved up to New York and worked for a huge hospitality firm there.
Yep.
And then, over COVID, we actually laid off around probably a third of the firm, which was unfortunate, but it was kind of actually a blessing in disguise for me personally. And so moved back, home to Atlanta and really struggling to figure out what I wanted to do. I'm just to be very honest, I'm young, I'm 24. So I'm like, haven't been in the industry too long, but I have always known, my dad owns 2 companies. And I've, watched him from a young age build those up from nothing.
Love it.
And be extremely successful in what he's done, and I get a ton of my work ethic from him, and my mother too. So, but yeah, moving back to Atlanta was weird. I was like, New York is I'm gonna be here for 8 years.
I'm gonna do that New York design thing. I'm gonna work 100 hours a week, and
I know it's like I'm gonna work my ass off, but I'm gonna be someone, and I'm gonna like enjoy the struggle through it. Sure. And then Atlanta, I was like, I'll move back at mid 30s, settle down, whatever, and did not think I'd be moving back this early. Yeah, exactly. But it's and so anyway, moving back, obviously over COVID, everything was, no one was hiring. And especially even in the South, I was like, I have design experience in this amazing firm in New York City. Like I have all these things under my belt, and
top 5, right? Like top 2, top 5 kind of firm in the United States.
It was an amazing, I mean, the firm was Meyer Davis Studio. We do we did hospitality in like, you know, when I was there, we were working in 10 to 12 different countries, like all over the world. And I love my team. Gray Davis, one of the owners, he is a close family friend of ours and he's amazing. But yeah, anyway, so moving back home, I was very frustrated because I was getting into second, third run interviews with firms and people in Atlanta. And, you know, I would, you know, kind of get to a point and then I wouldn't get the job. And so I was, excuse my language, very fucking frustrated. Like I was pissed off. And I was like, you know, I view myself as like in a humble way. I was like, you know, I'm better than this. There are people who I view as less talented that I am in the design world, and they started their own thing. So why can't I start my own thing? Damn right. And so, yeah, funny enough, it was like I was asleep. This was at my old apartment in like downtown, and woke up at like 3 a.m. and I was like, I'm gonna make furniture. Like, where the hell did that come from? And
really?
Yeah, seriously. And so I will say this about my previous job. We did a ton of designing of like high-end custom furniture and FF&E for all these different resorts or residential projects. And so I was working on a lot of that stuff. So I fell in love with like truly unique, and like what I'm getting into now is the collectible design. So like additions, like basically in the collectible design world, it's like I'm making this one chair a very certain way, and it's only one of 12 ever made. Right. And it's always an addition. And so I just fell in love with that side of the design world. And I was like, you know, like I'm gonna get into this, and like I don't know where I'm gonna start because I don't know how to do woodwork. I don't know how to do all this stuff, and I'm just gonna really figure it out, you know. And I was like, yeah, they're really gonna figure it out. And so started working on that, and really, honestly, in a week came up with an entire 7-piece collection, all in a week, and just sketching things out and figuring things out. And yeah, and so I was super excited and so I actually got a call from a recruiter who is a friend of mine in New York City, a job recruiter, in December of 2020. And he was like, hey, I have an opportunity for you. It's a business development position with this amazing design firm, like in like a phenomenal top 5 firm in New York City. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I actually picked up the phone. I told him no, and I hung up. And I was like, no, I was like, I'm focusing on my furniture. I'm doing this, whatever. And 10 minutes later, I called him back. I was like, actually, like I'm you know, like I would love to at least interview with them. And basically, yeah, so I ended up getting the job. Loved my team, worked for this firm for right about a year, and was doing business development for them. And I knew I had the design background, and I knew my lane, but I did not have any business acumen to go along with it. So I wanted to be working on the accounts. I wanted to be working on all of our contracts, the proposals, all of the presentations that's going out to our clients. Like I wanted to be on that side of things so I could see how that side of things worked, because I did not have any experience in that world. Sure. Yeah. And so I just, I guess 3 weeks ago, quit my job, and I'm going full time with my furniture business and furniture and lighting. So I'm super excited, and you know, see where this goes. So I love that, and I admire your story, and at such a young age to take that risk. And you're right. Being laid off from your job was probably one of the biggest blessings of your life. And the fact that you recognize that and realize that's like such a blessing. But, you know, one of the things that really inspired me when I walked that show in BDNY was seeing all you young entrepreneurs and creatives and like learning. I mean, there were so many lessons for me as we were building our business, and we're in the same industry. Right. But we achieved a level of scale that I was like, how do I help these entrepreneurs get to a place faster and more efficiently and at less cost than all of the mistakes and lessons that we learned in the same exact industry, in the same exact space? Because we see a lot of companies come in and out of our industry, but if you can group together and learn some of those things and share resources, you have a higher probability of success. So that's kind of how we connected, and just really, really proud of you and super excited to see what happens next. I guess I want to talk about, you know, for me, let's start by, I want to talk about the difference between creating and operating for you. Mm-hmm. Okay. And, you know, I'm a very operator brain. Okay. And I'm not an artist like you. Like, you're a creative for sure. Don't ask me to design our furniture. Our customers design our furniture. We just make it for them. But I guess
how do you get into the creative mindset? How do you get to a place, or are you just waking up all the night, every night with a beautiful design in your brain? Like, do you prime yourself to be creative? Do you have a routine to get in the creative mindset? Like, how do you blast music? Because everyone needs to be in a creative space for certain things, whether you're making art or you're fixing a problem or whatever, right? So how do we find that inspiration?
I think, and I'll be very honest and transparent. I think what you're saying is one, so on the money, but I think this is just me personally, and I can only talk, from my experiences. I have to have my mindset in a very specific way for me to go about something. So like every day, or at least I try to, not every day. I try to get up early-ish in the morning around 7:40 or 6:45, 7, go work out on the way. So I live in like North Atlanta, which is like 45 minutes from my studio right now. And so I will put on a podcast either. So like, what's funny, I've been listening to all of your past podcasts the past like week or two, and you have some great content. And then there's another guy who I actually listen to. His name's Jai Long. He's a creative entrepreneur out of Australia. Yeah. And he's amazing. So what pumps me up is getting my mindset into a place of, this is what I'm going to go do today. And I'm like excited and like, whatever, like no one's going to like stop me. Good or bad, I fuel a lot off of people telling me I cannot do something, or I fuel off of, like, funny enough, my furniture collection all came from, I was angry. I was pissed off. And that entire collection came because I was pissed.
What do you mean? Like you were upset about something, and just that rage fueled you.
I was upset that I couldn't get a job in Atlanta. I was upset that I view myself at this place where I think I can go really far in this industry, and I was just frustrated. I was just frustrated. And so like it all came out of frustration and anger. And I think it's learning how to, okay, this is what that is, but then taking that and using it for something good. How can I use whatever that may be, whether it's, if you're sad or happy, whatever that emotion is, how can I grasp that? And
that was your motivation.
Yeah. Well, how can you use that as motivation to do something great? And also too, I think it was something that you were talking about you were really inspired by seeing younger designers and entrepreneurs. In the way I look at it, and some people view it differently, but I really think there's a piece of the pie for everybody. It is so important as a community, especially in the creative world, to like stick together. There's trillions of dollars out there for everyone has a lane. Everybody. And it's so important to, I think I will say this, I think it's important to try to find a lane as early as you can, try to find a niche. And I can get into that in terms of my furniture in a minute. So trying to find a niche early, as well as, trying to find a community around you, whether that be in the same city, whether that be in like what you're trying to create right now with your podcast, and your people that you're having on here from, LA to New York to like all these different places all over the world, trying to find a community, because, that's something that I'm really looking to eventually try to do better in Atlanta, creating. Atlanta is a very different creative design community than New York is. Sure. And the taste is also different in Atlanta. Sure. And so I had a friend of mine, as well as she's an art consultant. We were talking yesterday, and she was like, Atlanta's one of these places that it's all amazing and it's great. It's one of these places you can work out of, but you cannot work from. And basically she's saying by that, there's a specific taste level in Atlanta, which is amazing, and there's a place for it. But it may not eat everything you are serving. Right, exactly. And to do things that are really creative and really out there, some people in Atlanta may not understand that. And, that's okay. And that's okay. So yeah. And sorry, that was kind of a tangent that I did. No, that's okay. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I guess like
as a creative and as somebody who's building something, like you're right, you're not only creating for yourself, but you're also creating for your customers. And so if your customer is not where you are, you got to go find your customer, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, and I think too is like, especially being young in this industry or in the industry, is like you have to have a level of hustle and like to know you're gonna do something. It may take 6 months, a year, it may take 5 years, but like damn it, I'm gonna get somewhere because like this has always been my motto in terms of this mindset. And it's like, you may be more talented than me. Like there are a lot of people on this earth that are brilliant. They're smarter than me or anyone. They're more talented than me, but I will outwork you. It's like I will try my best to do as hard as I can to try to outwork you while still creating that community. I think it's extremely important. And I can't, highlight that enough.
When as an entrepreneur, do you find yourself getting more energized about the creative process and to create the art, or now that you're starting to achieve some level of business and selling and like growth, like do you get more excited about selling product and doing the trade shows and meeting clients and doing the business stuff? Like what gets you more jazzed?
Yeah, I think there's a place for both. I think like right now I'm really excited for the business side of things because I am finally took the leap to go full time with my company, and so I'm super excited to see where that goes, and meeting and really trying to get involved in this community and other communities, and because I still have people in New York that that are cheering me on, that are excited, so it's like I think it's twofold. Like business is extremely important, and like reaching out and going to meet clients, it's just right now it's kind of hasn't hit me yet because like yesterday I went and did 2 site visits, and I was like, I could have never done this before, and I was like, this feels amazing. But then last night, I was in the studio working from like 7 to 10, and I was like, like this is amazing because I was designing something new. I was prototyping something for a client or a potential client. So I think there's something to be said about both. And I honestly think I think this is one thing that a lot of creatives can struggle with, is figuring out that, yes, you're creating amazing art or furniture or lighting or whatever it may be, but like also too is like you have to have a level of business acumen to go with all of this. Like if you can't sell your own product, then you don't have a customer.
Yeah, you can't sell it. Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
I want to ask you, and again, I've said this before, but like as a young guy, it's really a blessing that you're going through all of this learning journey. But let's talk about identity.
Yeah. Okay.
And as an artist, and now as a full-time entrepreneur who's trying to build a design product business, like how your identity is wrapped up in your company.
Right.
You are your business.
Right.
In fact, you create a product where you are your product too. Like, exactly. Right? You put so much soul and heart into everything that you design and create. You do it with your own hands. Right. What shows up for you as you think about that? You're going all in. What are you afraid of? What are you concerned about? Are you still attached to, is your identity still attached to that furniture? Have you gone through that mentally yet? Like, what's showing up for you as you're going through this journey?
Yeah, I think first of all, that's a great question. And with what I'm doing, I think it's, and you get this because you're in this industry or a very similar industry, is, I'm making a product physically with my hands. I'm not outsourcing it. Like me, myself, I am making everything. And so I'm like, this is, and I'm also making something that is going to last. Like a piece that I'm going to create is going to last hopefully 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years in someone's home. Like they're going to get joy and enjoyment out of that piece. And so I'm viewing as like, I'm leaving a legacy. Like what can I do to leave something behind? And where does that sound?
Yeah, it does not sound weird at all.
Yeah, no. And when I was getting into figuring out what I wanted to do, because I knew I wanted to start my own thing, is I was like, what can I do it's gonna leave a mark? Like, how can I get into something that I can do personally with my hands, and that it's going to leave a lasting impact on someone.
I love that.
You know, whether it's like like a designer, you know, like a furniture piece it's lasting as long as it is, and you can fix it, or you can do it will, you know, we have furniture that's lasted years and years and years, but whether it's like interiors is like in 10 years something is outdated and it gets ripped out. And so like, what can I, you know, it all comes down to like, am I leaving an impact? Am I leaving an impact on what I'm making? Am I leaving an impact on my client? How am I doing in terms of a client experience? Am I leaving an impact on I have a new studio assistant? Like, how am I helping him grow? Who and what am I touching on a day-to-day base that I can leave an impact with? And I think that's so important, and something that, you know, because it's my name on the company. Like, it's my name. I am the face. Like, it's not like, you know, if God forbid I were to like leave this earth, like my company's over because I'm not here anymore. And so it's exciting, but also terrifying.
Well, it's a strong enough why to keep you so motivated that there is very little to no room for failure.
Yeah.
And so I love that about your drive. And, you know, you're still a young guy. Lots of things can evolve and change over time. But that why is incredibly powerful. What are some of your biggest challenges that you've experienced that you maybe were not prepared for in this journey?
Well, one, I think, is finances. That's a big thing.
Of course.
You know, I had like a steady income, like great benefits, and like that's all gone. So, you know, realizing that like, okay, like I'm backed into a corner. I have to pay rent. I have to pay my studio rent. I have to, you know, do all these things. And so I think one is finances, and just like figuring out what all this looks like. Or repeat what you just said again. Sorry.
Yeah, see, like you see how it's such a challenge that your mind went black. I love that. No, what are some of the biggest challenges that you've faced as you've gone through this build in this journey that you didn't expect? Yeah, I mean, money and creating is not. You're absolutely right. Like, you need money to start your business. You need you need the cash flow before you can pay yourself. Like, all those things as you're building.
Right. And I think another one is huge is just meeting the right people. You know, it's at the end of the day, you can have millions of dollars, but if you don't shake the right hands, it doesn't matter. Like, you know, it's like it's who you meet. Yes, it's the hand you shake. So as my dad would say. But yeah, it's I would say right now in this moment in getting more very serious about my company. And what this looks like, it's me. Who am I meeting? And am I meeting the right people? Am I forming a relationship? Not even can I sell a piece to them? And am I just forming a relationship that may in 6 months, 8 months, a year lead to a sale or lead to something, or they know someone? And I think that's the challenge right now. So I have some exciting things going on that I can't really like share right now. But it's like I'm in the process of like,
you just gotta keep putting yourself out there.
Yeah, I'm actually right now in the process of writing letters. I'm writing 150 letters to the top 150, well, not top 150, but like a top 180 list, Architectural Digest, and then some other designers who I love and, you know, would love to work with. And I'm literally writing them handwritten letters. Like, I'm in that process of, and I'm going to send them to every single person. And so it's just time consuming.
It's what it takes.
Yeah, you know, it's a hustle, and there are definitely today's was one of the days it was like hard. I was like, I am exhausted mentally. I don't feel like I have what I want to creatively, and I think everyone experiences that, and even people that aren't in the creative field. You know, it's like
absolutely.
You have a mental block, and like I think it's important to also recognize that that's okay. It's okay to have days where you're not grinding, you're not pushing yourself, you're not just to have rest and to sit in that. I think is actually very powerful to like just sit and be like, okay, you know, I don't have to be pushing a product out. And I think something that I'm really in the process of learning, and it's a struggle for me, to be honest, is, you know, I'm very goal oriented, and even though I am a creative, I'm very task oriented, and I like to see results. And so when I don't see results somewhat immediately, that can be an issue. So I'm working on that, as well as, you know, really celebrating goals or goals that I've met. I have a tendency, and I think a lot of people do, of just, you know, hitting something like like example, like for ICFF, like that was a huge deal for me, like just even being involved in the show. And, you know, we drove a U-Haul 1,200 miles with all my stuff in it, which was stupid. I should have just shipped it all. And we were on the way home, and I was like, cool, like what's next? Rather than like sitting in it and realizing like this was an amazing accomplishment and I should be proud of myself, I am trying to do a lot better of sitting in that and taking a day or two and be like, hey, this is great. Sit in this and embrace it, and then we can move on. Own it. You know, it's
it's such a good, you're so aware about your journey, and I really honor you for that, because I don't think I learned that for a decade after I started. But you know, we attach ourselves so much to the result and like, you know, you're a high achiever, you're working really hard, you do a lot, you have a high expectation for yourself. Like for me, even I had a story of like, I need to be productive in order to be loved. I need to be efficient in order to be enough. Like I need to be doing more. And to what end?
Yeah.
To what end? And so you could be endlessly creating, endlessly building, but to what end? And so to be able to like step back and be present and enjoy the process, it's really the journey.
It is, and it's
that's
hard.
The most
like,
magical.
When you're in the moment, you're like, shut up, I don't want to hear that. You know, it's like I know, but I don't want to hear it. Let me just be in my bubble. Yeah, let me be my bubble. But it's so important, and it's something that I'm trying to, you know, to do better of being aware of. You know.
Yeah, it's a really great lesson. What is your favorite part now? Like, do you feel like, I mean, you kind of mentioned this, it's whether, you know, you have the luxury of being able to mix it all in one day. You could do a little bit of creating, you could do a little bit of selling.
Yeah.
That's so amazing. What are you working on now, creatively? Anything special?
Yeah, I am. So I'm really excited. So there's this brand new gallery in New York that's opening, and I'm one of their 12 or 14 designers that are going to be in this gallery. And so I'm sending a couple pieces from my current collection up there, but I'm so excited. I'm doing this limited release collection of this brand new Shays lounge. I'm just going to be a limited release of like 12 pieces. And so cool. I'm loving that because it's really giving me something creatively, and it's very different than some of my current work. And then actually, funny enough, I just met with an art consultant in Atlanta, and it's actually really amazing. She has created her entire home into a gallery, which is
makes sense.
It's one of those things. It takes a lot for me to walk into a home and be like, oh my God, like it takes a lot for that to happen. And I walked in her home. I was like, oh, you have $4 million, $5 million of art in this home. Like it was one of those kind of things. I'm like, oh, I've never been in a place like this. And so she was amazing and was a mutual friend of a friend, and she reached out and she was like, I want you to do a custom chandelier for my dining room. And so I'm in the process of, I just started, funny enough, I had a meeting with her yesterday, and I was like, I'm so excited, I'm going to start prototyping stuff. And so that's why I was in the studio till like 10, 11 o'clock last night. So those are the two projects that I'm working on that I'm super, super excited about. They're both very different than my current existing work, which is pushing me as an artist as well.
I love that. But as you think about what to do next and your journey in the future, what are you most afraid of?
Oh man, you want to get deep? What I'm most afraid of?
If you want to be surface level, you can go on another podcast.
No. Right, I know. Right? I knew what I was getting myself into. What's something that I am afraid of? Oh man, let me think on this for a minute. Because I want to give you a legitimate answer. I'm not a bullshitter. Like I want to give you authenticity. I mean, if we were being super honest, I think fear of failure. I think that's one thing of like that I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z, and you know, not live up to the standard that I hold myself to. I think that's big. I also, even though I say I don't need other people's opinions or approvals, like when it comes to my peers and the peers in the design community who I do want to impress, I think that's a fear of mine of like, am I making work that they will love, that's unique? Am I making something that, and also will sell, you know, is like, and there's this dichotomy, you know, as an artist and as a designer of like, okay, you know, you have your your bread and butter? What do you go to that's going to pay your bills? But then what also do you have that is going to push you as an artist, is going to push you as a person, is going to push you to create something new and different? And I think it's really important for anyone in the creative lane to have what they're, going to depend on for their livelihood, their income, to support their family, whatever that may be for them. But then also have a true outlet where they get to do what they want to do. Like, screw everybody else. You focus on what you want to do. And I think when you get to that point of, I'm focusing on what I want to do, from any kind of creative background or in any business, when you're doing what you love, it may take some time, but people are going to notice and they're like, wow, this is so different. This is unique. I am absolutely in love with this. And then you're also going to have people who hate it. And that's even better, is when you have people who like hate your work and also love your work. That means you're doing something right. Because you can't please everyone. And, that's something that, I'm it's like, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. And I know that, either you're going to love me, or like, if you don't like me, it's fine. Like, there's 1,000 other people who can give me approval, and my family loves me, and the people who are my close friends love me. I don't need your approval. You know what I mean? So I think it's important to have that. So,
well, one of the things that showing up for me as you're speaking is, being an entrepreneur is one of the most vulnerable experiences of somebody's life, and you have to be incredibly brave. And especially kind of what you're talking about, and all those entrepreneurs that I met in New York, like, you guys are so young. You're really putting your heart and soul into your business and your product. And like you just said, people may not like it. People may not buy it. You're taking a huge amount of risk. You're putting your personal name on the product. You're making it with your hands. And there's something very vulnerable and sincere and very noble about doing that work. But there's a significant amount of financial and operating risk and fear of failure. I mean, failure is a high percentage probability in those stages of those businesses, and it, and you're taking a ton of risk. And so I think that I really commend you for that, because it is probably one of the most bravest things that people can do in their life. And, whether this succeeds or doesn't is honestly doesn't matter, because you'll learn a crap ton from it, and you'll figure out what's next and keep moving forward. And I think that's the journey that you're on, and so many others can learn from. So
I completely agree. And I think so too, is like learning. I think it's so important to learn how to fail correctly, learning how to fail. I think that's like so big. I mean, even I've only been, doing this full time, or doing this for like a year, and like I've had failures, and like people not answer to me, and like for every 100 emails you send out, like you're gonna get maybe one, maybe two. It's like you just have to learn how to deal with failure well, and to know. And also too is like, I think this is so important. I think a lot of people have amazing ideas in terms of starting companies or businesses or wanting to get into entrepreneurship, and they think the barrier to entry is so high. Like, I have to give up so much. And at the end of the day, it's like, okay, you failed. And what? My thing is like, I'm, 24, about to turn 25. And if I fail, okay, I'm in like a little debt, not much, a little debt. Like, I'll go live with my family live with my parents for like a year, like work a job, get out of debt, and I start over. Like,
boom,
you're back in the corporate world. You know what I mean? So
yeah, but you have to be wired a certain way to be able to think and live that way.
You're right. No, and like I said, going all the way back to the beginning of the podcast, I think it's a lot about mindset, and I think it's really important to, like, even if it's not every day, a couple times a week, sitting down and like thinking, even if it's with there's some mornings I'm trying to be better about this, of getting like, I get my sketchbook, and sometimes I'll just sit and I will sketch for 10 minutes. Doesn't matter what it is. It could be crap. Most of the time it's crap. But just sitting down and, getting just into a mindset. Yeah, doing it. And I think it's creating good habits that will eventually pay off. Maybe not now, but in 5-10 years will pay off, so.
Eminem used to write rhythms and rhymes and lyrics, and he used to keep them in a shoebox for like 2 decades before he ever became famous.
Yeah.
It's just about doing the work, right? And so I love all of it. As we wrap up here, I want to ask you one final question. What does it mean to live a rich life?
I knew you were going to ask it. I was prepared. I think three things, three F's: fullness, freedom, and finance. I think those are the three things that come to mind. Fullness being that I am able to, one, do what I love, be around the people I love, and get fullness out of life on a day in, day out basis. Going to finance allowing me to then become free financially, to be able to be in a mindset where I can create without constantly worrying about money. When's the next paycheck going to come so I can pay rent? And then just freedom to create and to meet people and to really get in a space where I'm not worried, about if someone's going to like X, Y, and Z. But I think it's just so important to be in the mindset that if you're financially free, you're going to have so much more freedom in what you do with the rest of your life. And, that's a goal for me. I would love to eventually, within the next, I would say 10 years, to be at a point where I can be financially freedom or have financial freedom. So then I can really focus on creating, and so that's a goal of mine, whether that be, I'm still kind of figuring that out, whether that be into real estate or other different, forms. That's those three things I think are three big things that how I view what it looks like to be rich. I'm stumbling over my words.
Well, look, I this was awesome. I really appreciate you doing this, with me, and just your story and your journey. Like, it just gets me so jazzed, so excited. I get so excited to see other entrepreneurs take the risk, take the swing. You have such great insight. You're so brave. I'm really proud of you, man. I congratulate you on being on your journey. And yeah, you're so blessed. So just lean into whatever's showing up for you, and just enjoy the path, enjoy the journey. And I know people can learn so much from all this content. So I really appreciate you being here with me today.
Yeah. Oh, well, I have a question for you.
Oh.
Yeah, I have a question for you. Okay, so obviously, since I'm like a newer, younger entrepreneur,
yeah,
I wanted to ask, and I'm sure a lot of viewers will probably appreciate this. What's one thing that you would have known or would have done at the beginning of your career that you wish you could go back and do, or known, or one thing you wish you would have known? Either one.
Ooh.
You can take it
well, I'll tell you this. A few things that I did that I think served me really well, and then I'll tell you what I wish I knew.
Okay.
So I'll share some of the lessons that I feel like really did serve me well. Number one was I feel like I said yes a lot.
Okay.
And I think early on in your career, I think it's very healthy to keep saying yes. As you learn and grow, at some point you need to filter a little bit to drive efficiency, because you can't say yes to everything. But I think to have a yes mindset allows things to show up for you in your life. The second thing is never make it about the money. Like, always focus on value creation and adding value and providing value and creating great products. I think ultimately, and Elon Musk talks about this all the time, is like the wealth will always go to the people who create. And so focus on creating value for customers, your products, etc., and the money in the business will grow. I think focusing on that unconditionally served me, really, really well. I think one of the things I learned that I wish I knew, and I learned this way too late, is not wrapping up your identity with your business. Because I think there's a very far fall for that. When things go wrong or things get challenging, and they always do, because everything is cyclical in the world, it's very difficult to detach yourself from the outcome, and you cannot think objectively. And so being able to step away from your business objectively and look at it, from 30,000 feet, and not wrap up your identity and the success and the failure of your business, I think is one of the most painful things that I ever had to go through. And which is kind of why I asked you the question. And again, at a young age, and you have a brand, your brand is named after you. You're very wrapped up in your brand. And so I think that all entrepreneurs have this challenge And the better we can work through this, I think we ebb and flow in and out of it, to be honest with you. It's never like complete detachment, but the better we can operate in and out of that framework of identity, we become better operators, we're healthier entrepreneurs, and we can make better decisions for our business. And ultimately, if our business succeed, people benefit.
Yeah.
And I think where I see a lot of people fail, and in our industry, a lot of people have failed because of this specifically, is like your ego is wrapped up in your company.
Yeah.
It's so much ego about it's my business is me and my ego, and I got to prove something to somebody. And that's when everything goes wrong. And so that's probably one of the things I wish I knew earlier on, and it would have been less painful for me. It probably would have made less mistakes.
Right. Oh, love it.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. Well, again, really excited for you, and I appreciate you doing this with me. Good question, by the way. And maybe one day I can have you on the podcast and you can interview me the whole time. But
no, that'd be great.
Well, congratulations again, and we'll talk soon, brother. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks so much, Ashish. I appreciate it.